All right. Good afternoon, Sheree, or actually good morning for you. Good
Yes.
afternoon for me. Thank you for taking some time to chat with me from sunny Las Vegas. I'm so happy for you that you get to enjoy the sun because where I'm at, we are going into depression season. So maybe I should be talking to you more often in a therapeutic sense, but thanks again for taking some time. Tell us a little about, when we talked originally, I mean, you have so much to share, such a powerful story. Could you share a little bit with the audience? What do you like to share? How do you like to help people?
Absolutely. Well, I really love working with women. I love all people,
Mhm.
but specifically women, because I was the kind of person that was stuck and frustrated, and I really couldn't understand what was going on. So, in
Mhm.
specific, I like to work with women who feel stuck, they feel frustrated, they're not getting traction in their life. And what I like to do is really help them identify those mindsets that are holding them back, those ways of thinking that are keeping them bound, the ways of thinking that are really keeping them from getting from where they are to where they want to be.
Mhm.
And I love doing that because I was once that woman. Just a little bit about me is I grew up in a home with domestic abuse, domestic violence, and it did something to the interior of my soul. And it wasn't
Mhm.
until in my late 30s, mid to late 30s, that I really started breaking free from a lot of things that had really held me bound, a lot of lies, that inner dialogue that I had told myself. And it was really through spirituality, a lot of self development, a lot of self care, and rewriting the script of my life have I been able to come to the point where I'm at now, where I just consider myself very blessed, and I consider myself to have a voice to
Mhm.
women and men as well, but specifically to women who just can't get traction. So that is me in a nutshell. Also had a teen pregnancy, was
Okay.
involved in a physically abusive relationship myself. So there's a rich history there. So when I speak to people, I'm not speaking just from talking points. I'm actually speaking from a life that I've lived.
Right. Absolutely. You have the experience to be able to share with people, and that's what I think is so beautiful about your message. Now, I am curious, if you don't mind me asking, what helped you through those times? What was it that, you said the this horrible situation growing up and going through the things you did. And it wasn't until your 30s that you realized, wow, I need to change this. What helped get you there and what helped you get you through that?
Spirituality, a
Mm.
crisis of self. That's what
Mm.
I would call it. That's what I think it is, Dan, a crisis of self, where I just began to lose myself. I woke up one day and I looked in the mirror and I was like, who am I? I mean, I'm a
Mm.
wife, I'm a mother. Those are things that I do, but like, who am I as a person?
Mhm.
And how sad it was for me personally to come to this far in my life, and I'm doing all the things. I have all of the kids. I've got four of them, which is a lot of kids. It's a lot of house management. I have a spouse, but who am I? And I
Mhm.
just realized I had lost myself.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
lost my own self, my own voice, my passions, my desires, my calling to speak to other people beyond the pain.
Mhm.
And it was spiritual, it was self development, it was taking a hard look at like, what is the meaning of my life? If all I'm going to do is live my life to have the American dream, which I'm all down for the American dream, but if that's all I want on my tombstone, then I've wasted my life. And I want to do something significant and impactful that lifts people out from where they are and really get them to where they want to be. I think it is a duty,
Mhm.
it's a responsibility as a human being. It's not a luxury. It's not just for those who come from the right side of the tracks. The right side of the tracks is wherever I'm at, but it's about the track that I've been playing in my mind.
Yeah. That realization, I'm really curious for those that are listening, like you used the word stuck earlier. You like to help women who are stuck, and then you should kind of share the example of what brought you out of that, what helped you to realize that. And I honestly fear many of the people listening to this, many people that I know that I've worked with may find themselves stuck, but even more so, may not even recognize it. What was it that you recognized? What helped you to say, "Oh my goodness, I'm stuck and I need to do something different"? What was that wake up for you?
There were many things. It was a cataclysmic event. Is that a
Mm.
word, cataclysmic? I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's a
It
beautiful
sounds
word.
really good though. I'm like,
Yeah,
kid,
that's a good one. I like it.
cataclysmic. So just to be honest, my son, he was diagnosed with autism. And when that happened, I died.
Mm,
I died. Not only were there dreams that were crushed for him, but there were dreams that were crushed on the inside of me.
mhm,
And I didn't realize that I had my identity so wrapped up in my kids, in what they could do and what they
mm,
couldn't do. And I realized that, my goodness, I'm going, who am I really what my son can do? So it was a realization of pain, deep, dark, distressing, depressing pain, and coming to the end of my own self and seeing that I couldn't be who my kids are. I can't even be who my
mm,
spouse is. I must be who I am and love who I am. And I would actually say accept who I am and accept who I am not.
mhm. I think that's such an important thing. I can imagine as a parent myself and knowing many parents and working with many parents, so many of us get caught in that idea of I am what my children can do or who they're going to become. We take so much responsibility for their abilities, their happiness, their lack of happiness. What do you say to that? What how obviously you found a way out of that somehow.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is a difficult diagnosis to learn
Mm-hmm.
to deal with. But again, I a similar question. What brought you out of that? How did you change that? What did you change?
As a man thinks. James Allen has an incredible book,
Hmm.
As a Man Thinks.
Hmm.
And it's actually based on a scripture, as a man thinks, so is he. And I love that
Mm,
because it's actually not as the situation is, it is out how I think. That is what it was. It was, as I think, so am I. If I
mhm,
think I'm a victim, so am I. If I think I'm stuck, so am I. I think if I think that there is no way out, so am I.
mm.
As I began to think, that's what it was. It was facing, what are you thinking? Because in life, we all have situations where you don't get to pick your pain.
Mhm.
Everybody gets one. That's what I said. Something that just takes your breath away. And that's not negative, that's just life. So everybody, you get one. You don't get to pick your pain, but you get to pick your response. And that's why I
That's
say I'm responsible, which is really, I am response able. I am able to pick my response, regardless of the pain, regardless of the pressure, regardless of the problem. I may not be able to pick my pain, but I will be picking my response. And I've just made a decision that I'm going to, don't wait for a hero, get up and be your own hero.
I love that. Yeah. I I'm first, I'm sorry for smiling so profusely as you share these painful moments because as you're saying this, I'm like, my goodness, you're as much a logotherapist as I am. All these things you're saying is right out of what I try to teach people and what we talk about. The idea that, you know, you don't get to choose your suffering in life. Very few of us do. And those of us that do choose it should consider ourselves fortunate. But life is full of suffering. And we don't get to choose what it is or how it comes at us. But as you said, you get to choose the way you relate to it. You get to choose your attitude towards it. And as you said, you died. It crushed you, but you're not still there. What choice did you make? How did you change that?
One step at a time,
Mm,
one breath at a time. Because I think that people want an A plus B is equal to C, and that's not
absolutely.
life.
Right.
It's actually one breath at a time.
Hmm.
You don't get, I, I'm not an expert in pain. Actually, I'm an expert in pain, but I'm not an expert in making equations out of life. And it is actually just one thought at a time. So even with something like depression, because I went through that, to be honest, I had to make a choice. Am I going to lay in the bed or am I going to get up? And really, people think it's about the big choices. It's actually the little ones. It's the
Hmm.
little decision to keep going. It's a little decision to get out of bed. It's a little decision to brush your teeth. And when you look across the span of history, there's actually what I would call a rhythm. There is a pattern that emerges. And every great person in history went through pain.
Hmm.
Viktor Frankl, pain.
Hmm.
Abraham Lincoln, pain. Winston Churchill, pain. But it was just a small decision. Like I think about Abraham Lincoln, and my God, he had children die, his wife died, and he kept on going in the midst of pain. So if people want an equation, they're not going to get an equation. I would say it comes down to the little decisions that you're going to make.
Absolutely. I
Do the
definitely
hard
agree.
things. Do
Yeah.
do the hard things.
Do the hard things. I love that, right? I think I don't know if it's our culture or just our humanity that we do want that A plus B equals C plan laid out for us to say, if you do this, I guarantee you'll feel better. And it doesn't always work that way.
It doesn't.
Sometimes, as you said, I love that, right? That is right out of Frankel's books, right? Response able. We
Mhm.
are able to respond to our situations. And if we choose meaningfully, if we choose to relate differently in a more positive way, in a different way, life becomes more meaningful. And we're not in that devastating space. We're not stuck anymore.
You know what I will say, Dr. Dan? One of the things that I had was a lack of vision.
Mm.
Actually, I didn't have a lack of vision because if you're not visioning in a constructive way, you're doing it in a deconstructive way. So
Mm.
you are visioning whether you admit it or not. So
Right.
my meditation, I'm a master of meditation.
Hmm.
I make a decision about what I'm going to focus on because at
Hmm.
the end of the day, this is my mind.
Hmm.
This is my mind and I'm the master of it. It doesn't get to be the master of me. So just because, I don't know, a bird flies over your head, the proverbial bird, doesn't mean you have to allow them to lay a nest. So the thoughts come, I just take them captive. And I say, no, that's not who I am. I've already made a decision about who I'm going to be. So
Who
that
is it you're going to
vision,
be? Who is it
vision.
you're going to be? What is that? And I agree. Like, yes, too often we get stuck in, well, I am my thoughts. No, 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 no. We control our thoughts. We don't always control the first thought.
Yeah.
That bird flies in there sometimes and it's like, whoa, where did that come from? But we get to choose our response and our second thought, our third thought, our next thought, what our behavior is going to be. But I'm curious, who are you going to, I mean, you brought that up. What's your vision for you?
My vision is what I do, which is really equipping women beyond their pain and to
Hmm.
whatever promise it is that they believe is there for them
Hmm.
and helping them identify those mindsets, the lack of confidence, the lack of clarity, the lack of vision, the lack of purpose, the lack of self.
Hmm. Hmm.
I am amazed at how many people don't even know their self. They don't even know their tendencies, their own emotions, the sensations in your body.
Hmm.
You walk around with yourself. You should know yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, your preferences. Because I really believe that when you know yourself, you can then advocate for yourself, which is what led me to an abusive situation because I didn't even know myself, my worth as a woman, as a
Hmm.
human being, as a
Hmm.
person who's worthy of dignity. And if
Hmm.
you know that you have worth, you have value, that you should be honored, you would never allow someone to treat you less than. Never. So you must know yourself, to accept yourself, and then you love yourself. Then you can advocate for yourself. So knowing yourself is critical.
Yeah.
And not to rant, but people know about People magazine and reality TV, but how can you not know the state of your own self?
Right. I
It's a
think it becomes
tragedy in our society.
absolutely, it becomes too easy in our society to defocus on all these other things, to People Magazine, what's going on Twit Face and Insta, whatever, and all these other social media platforms. We become more interested in what's going on externally than what's going on internally. As you said, knowing ourselves, knowing our what we do. We've talked before with other people. That we go on this autopilot that is just fed to us by our current culture or by whatever it is, and that becomes our life. And before you know it, 50 years pass, and you go, "Oh my goodness, who am I? What have I done? What have I become? What have I shared with this world?" I keep going back to it because I'm so curious. I asked this question because I want others to have that same moment. What was it? What woke you up? How did you come to that decision? My goodness, I don't even know myself, and I have to change that.
How did I come to the decision that, and that's a tough question, maybe because there are several things that took place. I really think it was a spiritual awakening and enlightening because I'm a spiritual person.
Hmm.
It was just realizing that here I am in my mid 30s and I don't even know my purpose. I
Mm-hmm.
don't even know that I'm here. Why am I here? Like I'm here on earth, but why? And I couldn't answer basic questions that I should know. How could I be walking around and not even know why I'm here?
Hmm.
How could I not know my purpose? And it was coming to the realization that I don't know my purpose. I have no vision. And I did this exercise where I wrote down what I wanted people to say about me when I died. And as I began to write it, I began to realize how shallow I was. And it was that exercise of realizing I just want to be normal. I just want to do things that normal families do that I realized I don't want to write that on my tombstone. And I don't want people to say that about me. I want them to say that I did something impactful, that I did something that has meaning, that was significant, that was important, and that I actually lived a life beyond my own pain.
Wow, good for you. I mean, we all have a unique task that life is asking us to accomplish. And some of us go through life not realizing that and not ever getting to the point of realizing that we don't realize it. You did. And so that task for you that life is asking of you is to share your message with others. And by doing that, you have this impact. I'm curious, what feedback do you get? I'd love to know how you impact people when you speak to them. What is
Mhm.
the feedback you get? Because it is, I mean, to hear that story of such what we call, the existential vacuum, that meaninglessness, not knowing who you are or where you're going is from my perspective as a professional and just as a human being, it's sad to see people in that. So when you take them from that meaninglessness, from that existential vacuum, from that being stuck, and you get them to the other side, what do they say?
Well, the response that I get is that women say that this is talking to where they are. Some women don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even know why they're walking around miserable. And it's just like what you said, there's that shutting off. So there's this part in our brain, is from what I hear, because I'm not the expert, you are, but there is something about our brain that wants us to be comfortable, that just wants to numb things out. So you'll numb it out scrolling on social media, you'll numb it out binge watching, which I'm down for a good binge watch, but I don't want to binge watch my life away.
Oh, beautifully stated. Absolutely. I fully agree with both of those. Binge watching is good every once in a while,
Oh yeah.
especially with somebody else, right, that you get to share it with.
Oh
But you don't
yeah.
want your life to become a series of binge watching.
Binge watching, but there's something about the human brain that wants to be comfortable.
Hmm.
But when you're
Hmm.
comfortable, actually you're shutting down the cry of your heart
Hmm.
and you don't even know it.
Yeah.
And you don't even know it. So women typically have a sense of self-awareness. And in order to get that self-awareness, you have to be comfortable with getting uncomfortable, which is sitting with yourself and asking yourself some hard questions. Why are you here? What is it that you want to do? And one of my favorite ones is, what do you want?
Mhm.
Like, when it comes to your life, what do you want? And there are not enough people, and I can attest to this, that have really asked themselves what it is they want. I'm not talking about money. I'm not talking about cars. Get a nice card. But what is it that you want?
Mhm.
And those kind of questions, when you really sit in them, it's not just about what you want to do, it's about the kind of person that you want to be.
Mhm.
And once you figure out what it is that you want for your life, there to be no apologies,
Mhm.
period. And once women get that, then they become unstoppable because you begin to discover what your purpose is. And when
Mhm.
I think about purpose, I think about the intention of a thing. Like, everything in my house has a purpose. Well, almost. I'm still
Y-
trying to figure out where all these toys came from because they seem like, what,
It's
do we
it's funny
really
to
need 500?
it's funny to hear you say that. I'm currently redoing my basement office and I'm looking around going, what is the purpose of this and why
What
did I
is this?
purchase it? Surely I'm the one that purchased it because it's here.
It's
Why?
here.
Yeah.
Why is this, like, how many Legos does it take? I don't know.
Oh
Let's
my
throw them all
goodness.
out.
According to my basement, it's a 5 foot tall stack of them. So
Oh
yeah,
my
they're
goodness.
right over there. I love that idea. Getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Human beings don't change when they're comfortable. When we are uncomfortable, we are capable of amazing and sometimes sad change, but hopefully amazing change. And it's funny to hear you to bring up that idea of asking yourself difficult questions. I spoke to a young lady, probably late 20s, difficult childhood through the in and out of the foster system, and just now coming to that point of asking some of those questions. Well, no, she's not even there yet because the bulk of our time together this week was talking about simply taking herself out to lunch. She said,
Mm.
I've never done that before. That was the first time. And of course, my question, well, why haven't you done that before? Well, because it's so uncomfortable. If we're not comfortable with ourselves, it is so hard to sit in a restaurant, in a movie theater, in our own home and
Mm.
ask those difficult questions. But when we can do that, and I love that image of taking yourself out to lunch and having a wonderful conversation with yourself, probably not out loud because people might think you're a little off, but
A little.
if you ask those questions, write those down and come to the answers like you did. I mean, it can be a very powerful experience one time, but imagine if you did that for yourself regularly. If you had that conversation and asked those questions, you would be where you are, ready to help other people answer them. I think that's beautiful.
And you would be able to identify some of the thoughts and the feelings that you have. I'm a big believer in knowing your emotional state because I know personally for me, in knowing, getting to know myself, I shut down emotions.
Mhm.
I just turned them off because I was scared of them.
Oh,
Dr. Benner has a book about that.
mhm,
It's called, oh, is it The Greatest Love or Accepting Yourself? But it's an incredible book.
mhm,
But you can actually be scared of your own emotions and the thoughts behind them.
mhm.
But why would I be scared of my own self? Just allow yourself to feel, but doesn't mean that you have to be. Because sometimes people think if they feel, then they must be.
Mhm.
And that's not true. I can feel like a failure, but being a failure is my decision. It's not my destiny. It's my decision whether or not I'm going to be a failure.
Mhm.
And I simply just do not choose. I might fail and I might feel it. And just knowing even your sensations in your body, knowing what happens when you get upset. I have this exercise where we go through and write down the feelings that we have when we get stressed. How could I not know, Dan, that when I get stressed, I'm all clenched up,
Because
jaws
we're too
clenched,
busy. Yeah, we're too busy being clenched up to recognize it.
but it's important to know even the sensations in your body.
Yeah,
It's your
absolutely.
physical body.
Hmm.
Shouldn't you know? Your heart starts to beat fast. Shouldn't you know? You start to sweat. I should know. I should know those things about myself. It's important.
Well, and I think it's interesting, as you said, when you spend a lifetime avoiding emotion and repressing it and stuffing it down, pretending it doesn't exist, we lose, we don't know our own emotions, and eventually we don't, as you said, don't even know ourselves, don't even know the physical manifestation. And those physical manifestations can be pretty hazardous to our health if we're not recognizing them and learning how to mitigate them, control them, adapt to them, change them. Um, so you're right. Yeah, that is immensely important and not something obviously enough people do.
And I think that when you do that, it actually gives you a greater confidence because once I
Mm,
know myself, then I recognize myself. It seems like I'm all into self. I'm really not. I am into
hmm.
people, but I am into knowing who I am. Because if I know myself, I can establish credibility with myself because I know my tendencies.
Yeah.
And when I establish that credibility, you know what? No, I'm not going to do that.
Hmm.
Then I get confident.
Hmm.
I,
Hmm.
because people think that confidence comes upon you like a seizure. It actually doesn't. So you
Right.
don't just walk into a room and all of a sudden you're confident. There are multiple steps in order to have confidence. And we talked about this before. There's a difference between confidence and competence. And you can get
Yes.
those mixed up. You may not be a competent speaker, but you can still have confidence in yourself and you can grow in your competence as a speaker. There's a difference. So, really understanding the meaning, I love the meaning project, understanding the meaning of what something is, it actually empowers you.
Yeah, I think that's such a great statement that we get backwards sometimes. If you are confident, you will gain competence, right? Like, I trust I'm going to be mediocre at this, or maybe just slightly okay. Or if I have a rough day, I might be terrible at it. But I'm going to keep doing it because I have the confidence to know that if I keep doing the reps, if I keep at it, I'm going to get better. And that's true for speaking, for podcasting, for helping other people, whatever it might be. If you want to gain competence, if you want to be good at it, have the confidence, have the confidence to go be bad at it first, but keep doing it.
You have to be willing to suck.
Yeah, right. You have to be willing, go back to what you said. You have to be willing to fail.
You have to be
Failure
willing.
has never killed anybody unless it's, well, maybe the failure of an airplane that could be damaging, but right,
Yeah.
fail, the only true failure is the failure to try. Right? When we're not trying, we're not moving forward, we're not thriving, we're barely surviving. But failure, I say it many times on this podcast and in my office and in working with other people. Failure is a very positive and powerful thing if we let it be. It's the universe's way of saying, wow, you were not good at that. You might want to try something else or change your plan to get better. But you can keep doing something.
And I really like that you said that failure, it can be a positive
Hmm.
experience because failure feels awful.
Oh, it's horrible. It's horrible.
Especially when you fail as an adult. And I
Hmm.
remember I went and I spoke to some people at City Hall, and it was terrible. Like the one of the worst, most humiliating experiences of my wonderful life.
Hmm.
They told me, Sheree, we can't hear you. Your face, it doesn't match what you're saying. I felt humiliated. I felt like an idiot. I felt just like I wanted to hide.
Yeah.
And it was the one of the most powerful experiences of my life because it forced me to face the fact that I just wasn't that good.
Hmm. Hmm.
And but I knew I could get better.
Confidence.
Confidence. And when you can lead your own self, when it comes to leadership, like this is just a leadership lesson. If you can lead yourself, you can lead others.
Oh, wow. That's such a great point. And
John
if you can't,
Maxwell.
yeah, if you can't lead yourself, you probably shouldn't be trying to lead others.
Yep. I
Such a
was
good point.
I was in a group and they asked, like, who's the worst leader that you've ever had? And I said, me.
Mm,
Like, I thought about all the managers I've had. The worst leader I have ever had is me. Because if I had to hire me, I would not have trusted me. I
wow.
was the worst leader I have ever had. So if you can change your mind, you can change your life. If you can lead yourself, you can lead others. And so when it comes to leading people, my goodness, the number one person that you should be leading is you. And I'm amazed at how I would invest myself in a company, but not invest in my own self. That's a form of leadership.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really is. So I'm interested, Dr. Dan, like, how about you? How have you been able to shut down the chatter
Oh,
and the internal narrative of being a failure and not being confident?
oh, I don't. I let it keep going and I fight it and I work against it and I tell it, no, that's not. Did you just turn my own podcast on me? That
Well,
was really good. I like that. Ooh, you come back anytime. No, that was really nicely done. How Oh, that's such a great question. How do I turn off the chatter? Sometimes I don't, right? I've shared this story many, many times now, um, because I'm 15 years out from it, maybe. But I managed to lose $1 million once,
wow.
right? Yeah. It was horrible. I almost took my family into ruin. The stigma was devastating. It was horrible. It was affecting my mental, emotional, my physical health. I was in the hospital. It was terrible. And now I love telling the story because it was the best failure I've ever experienced because now I have lessons from it. And now I'll never allow that to happen again. But that chatter will come up every once in a while. So what do you do when you get negative? What would you do when somebody else tells you you're terrible and you're a failure? You'd say, no, I'm not. And I'll show you how. Well, it's the same thing when it comes to yourself. You say, no, I'm not. Watch me. I'm going to go do it. I'm going to do the thing that you think I'm no good at, right? Because my past does not define who I am. I just need to do it a little bit
Mm,
better.
my past does not define who I am. My inner narrative defines who I will be.
Yeah.
That's so powerful. And when you just told your story, I felt connected. I felt connected. I felt like you're Dr. Dan, the psychotherapist, but you're Dr. Dan, the psychotherapist who has a human experience, just like I
Absolutely.
do.
Absolutely.
And I think it's so brave when people are vulnerable. One of the best books I read this year was by Brene Brown, Atlas of the Heart.
Hmm.
And she wrote how shame can disconnect us.
Hmm.
But when you come into community and you talk about things, it actually connects us. And so I'm like, she's right.
Hmm. Well, that's what I love about podcasting. I get to have amazing conversations with wonderful individuals like yourself, and we connect, we share, we recognize our failures, and we move forward to build triumphs and to help others. What a powerful thing we get to do here. And hopefully through this, look, I don't know about you, I'm having a blast having this conversation. Hopefully
Oh,
through this
yeah.
fun little conversation, other people listening can gather something from it and be like, wow, I need to go have a conversation with somebody and be vulnerable and share about myself and recognize we are all human. We all fail. We all will fail. We all have failed. And we can use that as a lesson to move forward in a bigger and better way, or we can allow that failure to devastate and diminish us. Either way, it's a choice. We get to choose.
I love what you're saying. And it reminds me of John Maxwell. I'm a fan, obviously. And one of
Mm-hmm.
the things that he says is that frailty is built into the human experience.
Mm.
I wish I could have come up with. Have you ever just wished you could have come up with a great quote? Like, I'm like, wow,
Oh,
frailty is built into the human experience. I love it.
absolutely. Absolutely. I think we all come up with great quotes. We just don't realize how great they are until somebody else says, "Wow, that really connected with me. Thank you so much." You're like, "Yeah, I knew that. I knew that was going to be a good one."
But
Right?
I like that. I like that.
Yeah. Um, hmm. I think I'm sorry. I just realized this is going to have to be. This has been an amazing conversation, but this is going to have to be where it ends because there is a wonderful individual in a university near Las Vegas, but not quite there. I cannot disclose that, who is looking forward to chatting with me in a few minutes here. So I need to move on to that. And I know your sunny day out there in Las Vegas is probably beckoning you to get outside and enjoy that sun or to do something today. If people want to know more about the somethings you're up to and who you're speaking to, or to bring you in to talk about getting unstuck and dealing with the crisis of the self, where can they find out more about you?
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Dan. You can find out more about me at my website, www.sheree, Sheree, Cain, Cain, Jones.com. You can just contact me directly through the website. Follow me on Instagram. It's my name, Sheree Cain-Jones. And I would love to connect with you. And thank you, Dr. Dan, the psychotherapist who's awesome and vulnerable and exciting and so knowledgeable, for having me on your podcast. It's been such an honor to serve and your listeners. And really, I hope that this brings them more meaning in their own project of their life.
I am sure it will. Thank you so much. You are a wonderful, engaging, enjoyable chat. Hopefully, we will get to do it again sometime. I have the same hopes that the audience out there. Such a powerful conversation. Sheree, thank you so much. I look forward to chatting with you again. You take care.
Thank you, Dr. Dan.